I am joined by Rania Khalek. Rania, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Listen, thanks so much for joining me at the last second. I wanted to pull in as many voices as I could to discuss this from different angles because, again, I think it's very important for people to realize that what happened over the weekend, really gives you an insight into the great divide that is in the quote unquote Democratic Party, or I would say anyone who is absolutely not a Republican, because that's such a broad spectrum these days. But listen, I wanted to come to you specifically because you bring a great voice in terms of a critique, a feminist critique of not only just this situation, but of Hillary Clinton and this false dichotomy of either you are with Hillary Clinton or you're not a feminist. So I want to just throw it to you really quickly and tell me your perspective on what's been going on and how you tie this into the race in general.
Well, I mean, what's been going on is that there's a trend that's been taking place. It's been mostly isolated to social media, but a trend that's been taking place where people claim that disagreeing with them on places like Twitter and Facebook is the equivalent of harassment. And that's been ongoing for a couple of years now. And it's something that I've been very, very critical of since it's been a big issue. And it's sort of been isolated to the left on social media. But what we saw happen recently with the firing of Matt Bruenig from Demos is that this trend is being exploited by powerful, influential and prominent supporters of Hillary Clinton, who are basically using it to say that anybody who is disagreeing with our ideas or our stances and positions and decision to vote for Hillary Clinton and support her and advocate for her is harassing us, especially if they're a man. And it's Bernie Bros. You know, this ties into the whole idea of Bernie Bros, which is a completely manufactured controversy in itself. But yeah, they're all these Bernie Bros are just trolling us and harassing us. And now, you know, the Nevada thing happened where the Democratic Party behaved very undemocratically, and because of that, there was a backlash, and a couple people left some nasty phone calls and messages towards the Roberta Lang, the woman who was responsible for that. And so then that sort of ties into this as well, where those people were every, you know, Bernie supporters in general were, you know, were basically accused of death threats, rape threats, and of being, you know, like basically rapists, like rape threats. And so we see all these things tying together with what happened with Matt Bruenig, where now you actually see him criticizing Neera Tanden, this president of CAP, this powerful woman, this influential woman in the Clinton campaign, and she basically just exploited this trend that's been ongoing where all these people then trolled Matt and decided, you know, and started calling him a serial harasser, and then anybody else who disagreed with him a serial harasser. And they're using the language
Go ahead, finish that
of
sentence,
rape.
and I want to jump in there. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just gonna, I mean, this is like the trend of this is they're using the language of rape and assault on women and misogyny, which people on the left and the liberals are, you know, that resonates with them, to smear people with zero evidence whatsoever, who are supporting Bernie Sanders and disagreeing with people who support Hillary Clinton, to smear them as like people who are provoking rape threats, who are even sending death threats and rape threats, and again with zero evidence. And so this is really, I mean, this is really, really troubling because, and we can talk about a little bit. I mean, you wanted to say something, so go ahead and jump in.
Let me jump in there but I'm glad I stopped and let you finish that, because that to me is the most disturbing thing about this, is that they are using the language of rape and harassment, and it's something that causes a visceral response that whether they have evidence of this or not, right, they can just make this claim. And now, to be sure, it really undermines people who are legitimately threatened and harassed online because people are simply coming after them to harass them, versus someone who is having a political disagreement with you online, and now you have minimized the plight of people who are legitimately harassed online, and not over a political opinion, but simply because you're a woman. There is so much harassment that takes place. To see them just kind of co-opt that narrative just for political points, And like you said, without any substance, no evidence. Like somebody called me out and said, well, you shouldn't ask for, what do you think about this? Because somebody tried to call me out about this weekend. You shouldn't ask for evidence of harassment. Really? We're talking about political harassment. We're not talking about sexual harassment. We're not talking about rape. We're talking about the accusation of political harassment. What do you think about that?
But I gotta say to even that, yeah, I mean, I understand this need, and it's a good thing. The idea that if a woman makes a claim or anybody makes a claim of sexual harassment, it should be taken seriously and not dismissed.
Right.
That's what we mean when we say we should believe women, not we should believe women without asking for any evidence. I mean, the idea is, yes, please open an investigation and look into this and take it seriously. And that is being completely, like you said, undermined with this notion of just believe me without any evidence. I mean, even in a sexual harassment case, like an actual physical sexual harassment case,
right.
If there's an investigation, you need evidence to prove that somebody did what they're being accused of.
Right.
And so there's nothing wrong with asking for evidence. That's what we should be asking for.
Yeah.
But on top of that, what's really happening here is that prominent and influential supporters of Hillary Clinton are exploiting the idea of believing women in sexual harassment and online, and they're exploiting like the sort of panic that exists at the moment around online harassment to immunize themselves from criticism.
Yes.
And to change the subject of debate, to change it from a debate about the substance of policy differences and political differences to one about debating whether somebody's sexually harassing somebody's engaging in online abuse or not. Because now the debate's about completely ridiculous, absurd things that have nothing to do with what's actually happening with the election. On top of that, I will say, like, as I'm a woman who's I'm pretty well known online. I'm very active on the internet. I'm a writer, and I write about really controversial issues.
Yeah.
And because of that, I do experience a lot of online harassment and trolling. And at times, sometimes that does become like threats, although that's really rare. I mean, that's for me, and I do find that interesting that someone like me, who is, I think I'm pretty prominent on the internet. I don't receive the flurry of death threats and rape threats that seem to be like everywhere. Right. I'm not saying they don't happen. I just think that in this case it's a bit over exaggerated. But beyond that, I know I am somebody who does receive a lot of harassment. I've had to like file complaints with the FBI before because of specific threats I've gotten against me and my family for the kinds of stuff I write about. And so I understand that, and that's something I care about. And because I care so much about that being taken seriously, I am disgusted with the way that people who support Hillary Clinton are using this and exploiting this for their political agenda, while at the same time not caring about the fact that they're making a complete mockery of the actual harassment women like me experience on the internet. I mean, I'm just utterly appalled by this, because it's going to have, later on people are watching this and we know what they're seeing, especially people who already don't believe women. They're seeing, oh, see, they do lie. That's what they're seeing. They're seeing, oh, like, look what's happening on the left right now. I mean, this is fuel for the men's rights activist groups who already, are always looking for any piece of, any way to sort of prove the fact that women lie. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm really disturbed by that.